potency was better than what pH it was. So they went from 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, all the way up to 8 pH, and it showed that a consistent even 4 or 8 performed better than an uncontrolled one that was going up and floating up and down naturally with the pH. And I used to think that, oh man, well, look at the chart, man. Different things are uptaken at different pHs better. Yeah. Here's what I'm also here to tell you: in the dry down process, that shit's all going to happen anyway. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Jug Dealers Podcast, where we talk about all things cannabis and lifestyle related. As always, brought to you by the good people at 5-8 Distribution. We are back here in the Jug Den with my good friend, Mr. GRAMBO, behind the helm. My other good friend and co-host, Gabe, is out for this particular show. As always, I like to give a call out for any commercial operators out there that are interested in our products. Keep in mind, everything we have is commercial grade, whether it's any the New Millennium products or the Scietetics line that does have dry and liquid commercial bases. And as always, also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're getting real close to 20,000. Hey. We're really trying to get, that's been a big goal of ours for a very long time. We appreciate you guys that have been along the ride with us. And actually, we're doing a show that we haven't done in a while. We are doing a questions episode. And this is something that always seems to view really, really well, because the odds are if one of you has that question, a bunch more of you have that question. So these have always been fun for us. I am going to try and keep these, I don't want to say short format, because, Josh, I'm not really that great at that. But we're going to try and actually get through a decent number of these questions so we can hit on a lot of stuff. And thank you, Josh, for putting these together. Thank you, Jug Club members, for putting it out. We did put out a post saying, please, if you have any questions, let us know. So thank you guys for your help with that. With no further ado, I guess we should just get right into it, huh, Josh?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. The first one we have is from who? High Dollar 420. Why don't you read the questions out, Josh?
All right, he's got a question about what are the facts about UV and IR infrared during the flowering stages?
Great question.
So outside the par range.
Yes.
What's going on?
Great question. High Dollar 420. Unfortunately, when it comes to facts for these kind of things, that can be a little bit few and far between, especially on our plant. But that being said, we do have and have had Dr. Max Halvig on the show a couple of times that actually did his PhD work with UV on cannabis, Wageningen University in the Netherlands. So there is beginning to be more and more study on that. So I guess let's start a little bit with UV. I mean, in my opinion, I look at it as, kind of like we look at plant additives, where we know we have the essential 17, the plant essential nutrients. There are also plenty of other minerals and plant biostimulants and all kinds of other things that are around that are plant beneficial. So I kind of look at that as the same way. We know that PAR is what the plant specifically is needing for photosynthesis, but I believe other parts of the spectrum are absolutely beneficial for the plant in life. So, UV is going to be something that's going to make a plant push out more oil in our case, right? As a sunscreen, right? Because it's going, oh man, it's really intense out here. Let me put out. We are oil farmers. We love that, right? It's also going to protect from desiccation. It's going to protect from frost. It's, so it does have a variety of different uses. It can also possibly be, initiating some systemic acquired resistance responses, things like that. The way I like to look at it, we know for a fact there is UV and quite a bit of it, full spectrum, that's coming out of the sun. So I look at it as like there's no way that there can't be beneficial things to it, knowing that this is a plant that has a long history, not only with humans and civilization, but, on 6 of the 7 continents and at a variety of different latitudes, longitudes, altitudes, altitudes.
And we should say that there is the 3 different bands of UV. So depending on A, B, or C, which one you're talking about.
UVC. So, yes. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention, our DLI UV unit, which we like to make the joke isn't a grow light. Why? Because there's no PAR, but there's full spectrum UVA, full spectrum UVB, and even a little bit of UVC, which is the cleaner, if you will. It does help combat pests and molds and things like that. You cannot work under it, and it is only ran 4 hours per day in what we like to call solar noon.
You can check it out on the Jug Dealer shop. It's free shipping if you want. Check it out.
Yeah, check it out. And then IR, infrared radiation. The big thing with IR is that historically speaking, HPS gives off a decent amount of IR. So the in it so that normally, and when people have been growing with high intensity discharge, specifically with high pressure sodium lights, the internal leaf temperature is higher than the surface leaf temperature, right? And that means that you can get a higher metabolism in the plant at a lower ambient temperature rate in the room.
Yes. So I like to think of it as there's three different kinds of temperature. You got your room temperature, your leaf surface temperature, and your internal temperature.
Right. And a lot of times people like to think that this is one across the board. Well, that's not true. And here's the big thing. Here's the kicker, right? So that plant that we've been selecting that has a internal, let's just say, for experiment's sake, we say that your room temperature is, let's say it's 75 degrees, right? Let's say that your leaf temperature is 78 degrees. Let's say your internal leaf temperature is 80 degrees, right? So you've got a 2 degree differentiation in your internal to surface leaf temperature. None of these are extremes at all. This would be a very well operating room, especially if it were an HPS room. Here's the problem. If you switch that over to LEDs, and now you're going to have the same room that's 75 degrees, and then you're going to have leaf surface temperature of the same 78 degrees, let's even say, but you're going to have an internal surface temperature or internal leaf temperature of like 76 degrees.
Because the IR, like if you've ever been to like a restaurant that during winter, they put out those IR heaters, those will even go through the window. Yes. You'll get a little bit of heat through glass and everything.
And it's kind of like, I like to say a little bit microwave. It's heating from the inside out, right? Yes. And so again, that's why you have to run LEDs a little bit higher, because now let's say to get up to that 80, for example, if we're just using the same numbers on the same scales, right? Now to get that 2 degree difference, I got to get the leaf surface temperature up to 82 so that the internal temperature is running at 80, which was similar or even the same as what it was with an HPS, right? So again, I'm trying to break this down as simple as possible, but that's where the IR thing
comes. Like IR beds, people are getting into IR therapy and everything. This leads into the same thing. Same thing with the plants. It's heating up your internal cellular temperature,
which affects metabolism, right? And so then it's going to have metabolism is going to affect transpiration, all these different things, right? So that's where these different things come in. And I do think that both of them play a role and are important. I think UV has kind of been, left out quite a bit, but it is being brought back in. Obviously, we're not the only people that's messing with UV technology. Then IR is something that we're just figuring out more about, but also where we're seeing that big difference again is the difference between HPS, HID, and LED.
IR was just nature. The lights that we used for the last 30 years.
We didn't know what was actually going on. We only know now.
We turned our back on IR.
I can't believe it.
We want you back, baby. Come back, IR.
High dollar 420. Thank you very much for that question. And again, I know you asked about the facts of it. That is all factually based is what I would say.
And we'll get Mex back, We
will. And there is a lot of information that is, or more and more information that's out there.
Go back, watch the Professor Bugby and Mex episode. It was a great one.
Good call, Mr. GRAMBO. Okay, what do we got for the next one? Was this Quinn Armstrong? 467?
Yeah, well, Quinn H. Yeah. So he's got a pH meter. He's been hand watering and wants to move something more automatic.
Yeah.
What are the best ways to manage pH in the reservoir? This is something I know very well.
Well, yeah, and this is something I've always said, I think that stability in pH is one of those things. If you take that variable out, your plants will absolutely love you for it and they will perform. I've always used a blue meter. I believe it's called the Blue Meter Guardian. There are other versions of it out there, but essentially all it is it's an automatic doser. So it's got a pH meter that's in there. You can tell it when you want to check it. I always usually have it check every 15 minutes. If it's off by 0.1 of a pH, it's going to hit it down for a prescribed amount of time. You do have to do a little bit of dialing in with it, right? Because you can tell it, well, how many seconds, do you want to run it? Because you got to think different pH ups and pH downs are of different strengths. So some of them, let's say I would have to run for 20 seconds to get a full reservoir to drop 0.1 of a pH, right? Mm-hmm. But with a stronger one, I might only have to do 5. Just trying to use, real world examples, right? Now, here's the thing. If and everybody thinks you need a 2-way, but really you just need a 1-way. And on that Guardian, you can set it up to have it run for pH up or pH down. The reality is I always have it on pH down, right? I put the tank at 5.8 and that pH is typically going to naturally rise in your reservoir. So you really only need one direction pH. You only really need pH down. If it were to dive really hard, you need a pH up. I would look at what was going on. Do you have some temperature issues, things like that? Really a good healthy reservoir, that pH should be naturally rising. And even people that have gone in on a daily basis where they'll go and they'll check the pH and then dose it down, you'll realize, oh yeah, I always just do use pH down. Look at how often you buy pH up. You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah, that's always once up comes, I call it the pH dance. Like once it's out of whack, I'm like, oh man.
So I really, really do love an automatic pH doser. And I here's the thing, and I'll mention this test real quick, and I mentioned it before, but Blue Lab, speaking of Blue Lab, is actually did a test as well. And they just did it, I think, on basil or whatever. It was a basic plant, but they showed that essentially consistency was better than what pH it was. So they went from 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, all the way up, and we do actually sell these on the website as well, all the way up to 8 pH. And it showed that a consistent even 4 or 8 performed better than an uncontrolled one that was going up and floating up and down naturally with the pH. And I used to think that, oh man, well, look at the chart, man. Different things are uptaken at different pHs better. Yeah. Here's what I'm also here to tell you. In the dry down process, that shit's all going to happen anyway. pH is going to change in the reservoir. There's buffers in the rhizosphere. There's so much going on down there that to even think that we need to worry about it that much up here. So consistency, whether that's 5.5, 5.8, 6, 6.5. We always say our stuff works really well from 5.8 to 6.5. As you know, we say at the beginning of every show, brought to the good people at 5.8 distribution. We like 5.8.
Named after the 5.8 pH.
Yes. So we like that. That's, what we've always kind of considered the best down the middle shot for cannabis, but also understand those little intricacies and the plant trying to and needing to pull up and take up different nutrients at different levels and different pHs and stuff. Man, there's so much complex shit going on down there. So don't worry about it too much.
Well, and then he ends off just asking, and this seems like kind of a newer question because it's not quite the accurate question. He said, should I track EC or PM?
Or PPM.
Or PPM.
So I guess I can interpret that in two different ways. And so I'm looking.
Oh, and I read it wrong. I was thinking he was asking about. I'm dyslexic. Hey, dyslexic guy.
Yeah, let me have GRAMBO do the reading.
Should I track EC or pH? EC or PPM? Definitely EC, right?
Yeah, definitely EC. But here's the other thing: is he also just saying, should I track that variable at all? Because those are both just a food variable. So first off, I'll answer that in two different ways. Number one, EC over PPM. PPM could be on the 500 or the 700, depending whether it's European or U.S. nutrients. And by the way, that's not even a hard and fast rule, so you're kind of on a guessing game. Anyway, EC is electroconductivity. That is a scientific standard. That's what I would use. And if you're asking, should you track your EC and PPM and or PPM? And I would say yes, definitely. Not that, like I tell people, take good notes, and if something changes, go back. At least you have something to look at. Did something get too hot? And people try and change too much in the course of an annual plant. The reality is what's happened's kind of happened. Take good notes about it. Oops, I fed a little bit too heavy. Back it off the next time, whatever it happens to be, right? But I do think it's worth tracking. I personally always have tracked it more from a sense of I kind of like to know just when I put my mix together, you know what I mean? And like, if I know what EC it's supposed to be and it hits, and I put the meter in, I'm like, cool, I didn't screw anything up. So in a weird way, it was always kind of my backup of saying, you, and there has been a couple of times where I just screwed up the mix. We've all done it. And then it hit the EC meter weird. And I'm going,
That's a good reason.
What I screw up
to take data. We always say different cultivars want different ratios of things. So if you're growing one plant and it loves this EC, then mark that down. If you're growing another plant, it doesn't, mark that down. And now you know for future.
I like to tell people, it's definitely one of those deals. Like, take good notes. Sometimes when you're growing multiple varieties, that can become a little bit problematic. And I've always been the guy, if I got 8 slots, I'm growing 8 different varieties. Yeah. That's difficult to take that on, but I always still take good notes. I like to know what's going on so I can go back and look. Anyway.
And a hack I love that I don't personally engage with the Grow Diaries. You ever see the Grow Diaries online?
Oh, yeah.
And so one thing I found is interesting. If you got a strain that you're not fully sure on, go to Grow Diaries, type it in, see what other people have had success with. If you see a lot of people are all like, bang, 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 OG does like this, take that as not fact, but a signpost.
Anecdotal?
Yes,
is it anecdotal evidence?
Anecdata
even. Ooh, there we go. We're back at it. Okay, thank you very much for that question, and a good one indeed. Moving on, David Carey, 82, 60. Seems like this may be one of our German listeners based on the question, which product forces bloom? I've got a lemon skunk in South Germany. That was my clue, by the way. That is still, still is growing wild. Okay. So, and I'm
so I assume that's outdoor, right?
Yeah, I'm going to say that's outdoor. And I bet they're on a kind of a similar latitude because I know when I was in Berlin, dude, it was crazy. The sun was coming up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. It was only dark for maybe like 4 hours, maybe like 11 to 3, something like that. Oh yeah, it was kind of wild. It's no wonder that city doesn't sleep. So they're definitely farther north than we are, right? We never get to that kind of extreme. Now he's in South Germany, but my guess is that they still got a little bit of time because right here in Colorado, I say August 1 for a lot of varieties, but really August 15th, you can really say, hey, flowering has started, right? And then by September 1, you should absolutely see that the evidence of that, right? Because it takes a week or two to get the evidence. And a lot of people got to understand, indoors, you go from 18 to 12 overnight. Outside, it's been clicking down a few minutes a day, a couple minutes a day, maybe only like 90 seconds since June 21st. That's a very gradual transition.
We were just having a private conversation with our guy just right out here in the lobby about
and because it's not that 12 thing, and that's not a hard and fast.
It's not linear. It's this curve.
So and some are gonna trigger flowering much easier. Some are gonna be a little bit later. Whatever. So I think
products to force
products. And so a couple of things. One, if you had an ability where you could actually like put it indoors in a dark closet or something like that, or a dark, no, seriously, and just do it like a light dep kind of thing. If it's movable and you could just put it in and say, look, I'm giving you 12 hours of darkness a day. You know what I mean? That's just what's happening. So like you give it its 12 hours of light and, it's halfway through the afternoon or whatever, or early evening, you chuck that thing in the darkness and you get its 12 hours and you force it to flower until the light, until the light period.
And you could do that outdoors just with a tarp and a little
exactly.
enclosure.
Yeah, you could totally do it. Do with the tarp. You could build a little cage around and do with the tarp. You could definitely depends how movable the plant is, or what materials you have available. Now we do have a product called Decision, which and again, when I say the things that force bloom, ultimately it's photo period, right? So just keep that in mind. There's no like real silver bullet that's going to just force bloom without without these other external signals. But with the external signals, a product like Decision, which I do believe is actually available in Germany, maybe you have to look. But what is it? That's a bloom initiator, right? And so that does help a plant because again, we've kind of confused it, right? It's going, geez, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Now, again, that's also something that's more typically used indoor when we go from that 18 to 12. Outdoor not being as extreme, focus more in reality, focus more on photo period and being able to give it 12 hours of darkness and do that, have the ability to do that for, let's say, possibly the next 2 to 4 weeks until that darkness has gotten to the point where you don't have to do that anymore. And that's called light deprivation, light dipping.
Yeah, literally playing God.
Yeah,
I love it. That's great. So you don't even need a product. That's a free solution.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's more about photo period. Again, the Decision reinforces that, and and especially again being indoor. When yesterday I had 18 hours of light yesterday. Today I only get 12. What the hell's going on? It's to really help the plant make the decision and make, and that decision is go into flowering.
So yeah, not really anything.
Go on, girl.
That's more of a pre-solution than a post-solution, right?
Indeed, sir. Yes. Indeed. But cool. Good question. And then maybe even for the and being a lemon skunk too. I mean, that thing could be. It just depends how. I don't know how sensitive it is to flower, but again, get it 12 hours of darkness, see what the hell happens.
All right. We got Jug Club member TF. He wants to know what genetics that we're crazy about over here. He's currently wondering what the new genetics are and what we are running personally.
Huh? Yeah, what's that new? I mean,
I know right off the bat which one that in-house we would recommend. I love that original OG from Josh D.
Yeah, absolutely. That's been something, and I've been lucky to be tasting on some of that, and then also his what was the other one? The Bubba Kush, which is the that was the Bubba Cross. That absolutely delicious. You guys have heard the LMNOZ. We've been really, really talking about that.
That's from the Sour Family Farms.
Yeah, Sour Family Farms. That within the last couple of years has definitely been some of my favorite stuff. The catfish. I know that Gabe had actually posted a picture of the catfish. And speaking even some of the stuff he has, that it's not the straw, it's the strawberry adhesive.
Oh, yes. That's a GRAMBO strain?
Ooh, is it? I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, smoked catfish from Midnight Roots.
Yeah,
that's a great one.
that's what I was going to say. So smoked catfish, I believe, yeah. But just in Gabe's possession, it's that strawberry adhesive, and he's brought some of the extract as well. Absolutely phenomenal. And then the jelly donut, too, has been really good.
Right. And then...
but of course... I'd be remiss.
Yes.
Without saying my all-time favorite, the Gorilla Glue, and she's still around, and I still, that original GG4 done well. I absolutely love and adore and always will. And so, fortunately it's made its way around Denver again a little bit. I don't know who did that.
And then I'll also shout out because the Jug Dealer fam, we love the Lovin' in Her Eyes. And I really love that Super Mega Fuego. Kind of a silly name, but the plant ain't playing games.
The Cajun Moon actually was one that I really liked out of that last batch. So no, it's funny because I always think I'm like, oh no, I don't smoke anything new. And then we start talking and I'm like, oh, actually this, I can't forget about that. And then actually I had some really good Coolio from some of our people here in town growing with some of our products. Shout out to Capulator. Coolio being one of his strains. That thing was really, really, really good. And then last but not least, I actually had some Blue Zushi from the same guy. It's not a Capulator strain, but that Blue Zushi was, it's like, yeah, it was real delicious actually. So yeah, no, that's because some of the new stuff. I always keep the classics in my garden.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff I still got in the garden, Unicorn Poop GMO, of course, GG4, as I mentioned, Pure Michigan. What else? Did I say garlic cocktail?
No,
I didn't say garlic cocktail. Mac 1. That's always one that I have and rocking all the time.
Won the DGC Cup last year.
There you go. So no, that's just a few, and that's not everything I'm holding on to. Black Maple, that's another one. That's Harry Palms, Bloom Seed Company. Shout out to Bloom Seed Company. So we're lucky around here in the Jug Den. We definitely get people that are consistently keeping us with good flavor.
And then I'll shout out just the most medicinal strain that I've came across in the last few years is from our buddy at Three's Genetics, Jeremy. He's got this strain called Moose X. It literally, not just me, it's been like, I got a message from a friend where he's like, bro, I can't do it. Like, I can't, it ruins my whole life. I can't function. But if you need,
if you need real deal medicine.
Yeah.
And is this a 2-part question from TF here? Is that what the bottom of this part is?
Yeah, he was interested about the secret sauce. If we had an infographic that explained it.
Anybody has asked that because I'm actually working on getting that all updated right now. We had one that we did set out in Germany that just had blastogen, rhizium, and fertilium, kind of as a European saucer-based recipe. But reality is I need to get the saucer base fully updated and the secret sauce fully updated. So those 3 products that I mentioned are on there and everything is up to date. I apologize for the delay on that.
Well,
thank you for that kick in the pants. I promise you this is actually in play.
The saucer base recipe didn't change for a long time. Then all of a sudden the whole line changed a little bit. So anyway,
thank you TF for the support. Thank you for the questions. Moving on. We've got Brock here.
Brock, another Jug Club question. What do we got here? It's a longer one, so I'll let you take it.
Okie dokie. I've got a good question. So my last run using the auto pot, I had a great run with NewMill Newts and a little recharge, and I was top watering in Ruby, Carbo, and Recharge. And then I noticed the auto pot website said they do not top water in because buildup of nutrients in the pot. I did not seem to have any problems with the last run. Could it be because the Ruby is helping to recycle those nutrients? Should I not be watering in the top and pouring in the bottom of the tray, not the res? Okay, first and foremost. Let's focus on the top there. You had a great run, right?
Hey.
Okay, so let's
start there.
So Brock, let's start there. Really good question though, and totally valid question. I understand why they're saying that because they are always having that film, that small film of water that's always there on an auto pot, based on the way that valve works. Now, one thing that I've done with auto pots before is just put a ball valve in front of all that, between the reservoir and all of your valves, and you could just turn that off. So you could turn that off for the day, even if you were worried about waterlogging them, or even if you just wanted to dry them back a little bit. I know, like, the reason I did that is I was running OGs and whatnot, and sometimes I'm like, man, I just got to dry this shit back a little bit. They're they don't like the wet feet, right? So, but the fact of the matter is, yes, the Ruby is continuing to break everything down, condition that rhizosphere for maximum uptake because of that proprietary mix of and multi-source mix of fulvic acid, right? So you putting that in there undoubtedly is helping that all kind of work itself out. But I would say, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
So, I totally know why they're saying that, and I get it. And maybe you want to put a slight little update where you could, turn them off if you wanted to and just turn off the res temporarily so that the day that you do top water, you're not double watering.
Yeah. And if you do over water from the top watering, it will leak down into that water and then some funky stuff can start to Especially with the recharge. You don't want to let that stuff get funky.
Yep. And again, because of the hydro, and actually, Josh, great mentioning that, right? Because with the hydraulic conductivity of water, like in fact, what I used to do a lot of times is I would turn it off the night before and then water in the next morning, right? And then I would basically, let's say maybe the next night, turn it back on and, now it's just running auto again. But even think about that, maybe not turning it right off and then watering in, because the hydraulic conductivity of water is such that water flows through something that's wet. And that's because of cohesion of water, because water is polar. Polarity of water has a positive and a negative end. And that's why, all kinds of cool things work with water in nature. But
that's a good one.
Yeah,
I like that tip. I used Scotty's real buckets,
sure,
and it's like it's always like, dry back's just off the table for me. And I didn't think about a little valve there.
Whoop, whoop. I mean, that's all it takes. Just a little bit. And I honestly, with any of those type of systems, I have found that to be advantageous. It just gives you a little more grower control. That's
nice.
all.
That's good. You got a double tip there. That's why the questions episodes are cool, because we start by answering one question and then turns out we're answering a handful.
That's the hope. That's the hope. Okay, what else we got? We're rocking right along, dude. I'm loving this. Let's go.
We got slow rolling stone. He's running some NewMill.
There was one time, quick sidebar question. So I used to work lawn and landscaping. So you're working long days in the heat, in outside of Missouri. It's hot, it's humid. We'd go and, take a little cruise afterwards. We're rolling down, we're smoking some weed. We're in my old rodeo. And it was totally one of those times where it's like, I must've been doing like 22 miles an hour on a 55. Yeah. And I finally look at my back rearview mirror and I'm like, oh my God, there's so many cars back there.
Yeah. That's a classic stuff. If you get too drunk and drive, who knows what you're going to do? If you get too stoned and drive, you're probably going to end up parked.
You're at 10 and 2.
I think we're parked, man.
I think we're parked, man. Yeah, that's basically where I was at. Okay, Mr. Slow Rolling Stone. I'm running NewMill in Scietetics cocoa using RO water and RO seasons. During the decision period, do I need to condition the water with a CalMag product? For example, if one were planning on extending the decision period to 3+ days, would the RO water mess with the increased demand for calcium during the initial flowering stage? I mean, look, great question. Actually, in my personal opinion is that's still a small amount of time without calcium. I wouldn't really worry about it. If you are paranoid about it and you have a little bit on your shelf, maybe 2 to 3 mils wouldn't be like the worst thing in the world. But here's the thing: decision and winter frost kind of working the same way in that they block out certain things, specifically like nitrogen, right? So it's like a nitrogen blocker. So if you have too much in there, it can actually kind of overcome it. So and most CalMags are calcium nitrate based. So reality is, I mean, if you're running it 3 days, 3, 4, 5 days, I wouldn't worry about it. And I know that I never have. And I'm here in Colorado, not with RO water, but with super clean Colorado water. So I think you're just fine. And again, keep in mind, if you do see any kind of, if you are running a decision hard like that and you see any deficiencies, whatsoever, that doesn't mean the decision is working very well, but get back onto your full bloom program so that you're not going too deep into that. And it will snap back.
And he's using that good Scietetics cocoa, so it's all buffered and everything. If for some reason you are using more of that bunk cocoa, it will start robbing cal. We could have ourselves more of an issue. But yeah, using that fully composted and fully buffered cocoa that you're getting from us, and I'll give a shout out to the Bad River Farms homies. They have a YouTube channel, and they show plants. They take the age restriction right on the chin, but so they use all of our products. They're growing the dankest weed you can grow with commercial settings. And I'll give a shout out to them. We're going to start working with them for Jug Club. So
awesome.
Instead of having to get Jerin in a grow every single week, we're going to have those guys in the grow touching plants.
Yep. No, it's awesome. They're great guys. Big shout out to Bad River Farms out there in South Dakota.
Yeah.
Doing it the right way. Thank you guys. And thank you for the support.
Okay.
Moving on here.
And yeah, we had a lot of new products coming on. So this was, questions straight from the Jug Club. These guys are using these products.
And I want you guys, if you have these questions, this is exactly why we do this. I want you to ask them so we can answer them. This particular one is from Snowman, and it's about Blastogen. So we're not going to read all the way through it because it was and I did previous, and I never usually read through, but Josh made me do that because it was about a page long.
And it's got a lot of good information.
It's got a ton of good information.
Like these are questions even I also had.
So, but what we did is we kind of broke them down into what we pulled out as like 4 different questions. Josh, you want to just move that down a little bit?
Are you saying tippy toe?
Tippy toe. Okay, so we basically pulled out 5 questions out of that, and you can see Blastogen is our new bloom booster. All right, it's not just your additional P and K, but of course a bunch of other different and high quality plant biostimulants to increase not only size but also quality. Whereas a lot of classic, say 0, 50, 30s are going to give you more size, but they're just going to give you more plant matter. They're going to leave the same amount of oil on more plant matter, which means you actually spread the oil out. And we know we don't want to do that. You can see it is 008. 088. That is your additional P and K, and then a bunch of different building blocks, etc. Let's get right into it. Could Blastogen at 4 mils per gallon be causing new late flower growth? So the gentleman's having some late flower growth. The reality is, if I remember right, there was some temperature variation compared to the last grow as well. A lot of times you'll see foxtailing in temperature variation, especially if you're running a higher EC coupled with that higher temperature. You could be getting a little bit higher metabolism, and that could be some of the expression from it. I wouldn't necessarily say it's causing it. And I know I don't think you were even looking at this as a negative thing, by the way, either, because I don't think it was like straight like crazy foxtailing or something. It was just kind of like, holy crap, there's still growth happening, late. But I'd also say, depending on the genetics, I mean, dude, I get a lot of swell and a lot of new growth and even a lot of pistils late week 8, week 9 on OGs and stuff sometimes, and even some of those genetics, it's like no matter what, even if 90% of the plant's finished, it's like there's that last little bit that keeps kind of trying to chug along. So could be, could be part of the fuel that's fueling it. But I think that there's a few other things at play here. Question number 2, why new bud shoots forming from the top sides around week 6 to 7? Again, same kind of thing. Same. Is there an interaction between temperature along with, because it's not just P and K, but there is a lot of different biostimulants in there for floral expansion, floral production, oil production, terpenes, flavonoids, thiols, all these different kinds of things, all these different aromatic compounds, if you want to lump everything together, of course. And
then pistils. That's they're a very volatile. Says you can make them go orange pretty easily. What do you think?
The deal is, man, too. Like I've harvested stuff that like the oil's looking pretty on point, but the stuff, like I said, an OG at times keeps putting out some white pistils. The fact of the matter was, when you cut that off the plant, those are going to die off and die back. You're not going to be seeing a bunch of white pistils all over the place. They will just dry back into more of an orange brown pistil. No problem.
Are the new pistil growth being yellow being concerning?
No, I wouldn't find that concerning at all. I mean, I think that's kind of a late term thing. Now, sometimes I have seen with let's call them, because I'm not trying to get age-gated here, late term flower, other flower production that you might see, but that's a stress response, right? And that could be from a lot of different things. That could be, stress from heat. That could be, stress from, EC stress, something like that. But that's a plant like these things were, historically speaking, monoecious plants. Monoecious meaning one house, right? So it had male and female parts in the same plant. Over time, we have selected it to be more of a dioecious plant, which means it has male and female plants. Given the opportunity, this plant will go right back into its native form. So it has the genetics in there to still go, shit, I'm not going to get pollinated. I need to do something to make this happen. So I have seen, some weird kind of color and weird pistil growth and some things like that happen late. Wouldn't worry too much about it.
So yeah, that was basically his thing. Is it environment or is it the boost in EC?
I think it could be a little bit of both. And again, this is why you don't look at symptoms over science to diagnose your issues, right? Because the symptoms is what's happened after the fact. Well, now could have been a multitude of things that did that, right? And that's where it becomes difficult. Like I like to tell people, overwatering and underwatering Well, damn, they look the same. But now if I get another variable like pick up the pot, now I've got an idea of what's going on too, because now we're getting more towards a sign as opposed to just a symptom, because it goes, oh, I've got a saturated, rhizome, or there's no water in here. Anyway, so
and not that he did it, but this is a perfect case study for why you don't change multiple variables at once. Because then now you're asking what happened.
You don't know. You don't know.
And you only change one thing. Some people are changing like 7 things. You change one thing, you have no clue what you're doing.
Well, it's kind of like we said on the last episode. It's like if you change the amount of light, but you don't change anything else, you didn't change the amount of light. Yeah. Well, why? Because you didn't adjust any other variables.
That's fascinating.
So you know what I mean? That's the thing. Other people think, oh, you want to attack one single variable. Yes, you're absolutely right. And that's really what science is a reduction of variables. However, once you reduce to that one variable, and undoubtedly, it offers up many, many questions that surround that as well. So you answer one question to then cause 10 more. Yes. But again, it's the building block process, which can be frustrating, no doubt.
All right. And from one of the more hardcore juggernauts in the crowd was we know this guy very well. We got a question from Get in the Pool.
Get in the pool.
Yes, sir.
27. Okay, I'm learning to be less heavy-handed training my plants, and I'm trying to figure out a balance of removing fan leaves and flower. I hear so many opinions, but at some point on how many experienced growers handle it. Full bush or bikini wax? I like it. I'm trying to be much more hands-off and do more of a scrog, but I feel like I'm either doing too little or too much, and it's time to fine-tune my game. Strain dependent, and I just did a dab.
See? Hardcore juggernaut, he beat us to it.
Just did a dab. Okay. That is a great question, and the fact of the matter is I like to be kind of in the middle is what I'd say. But I will also say that I don't think I've ever over pruned a plant. I've butchered some plants down to very, very little. What I don't do is I don't come back at that day 60. I do a day 20 prune, day 20-ish, right? Once plants stop stretching, they get that flower set, and then I'm taking it up, and I usually do a double trellis. And typically I'm taking everything completely gone up to that bottom trellis. So then I'll allow flower growth between the trellises and above the trellis. And at that point, so I don't go down to the full lollipop. I'm not a fan of the full lollipop. But what I will do in that day 20 is try and take damn near every single fan leaf that I can off, right? And that's just to open the thing up completely. It'll flush back in with a few days. You won't even hardly notice it. It's pretty crazy. But the thing is what you're also trying to do is you're trying to reduce a bunch of the fan leaves that are taking care of the whole plant. And those are going to be those older fan leaves that are just connected to like the bottom of a branch, right? So you don't need to worry about those fan leaves that are really small, that are kind of like the sugar leaves that are actually on the bud sites, right? Because that's directly feeding the bud sites. So that's the other thing that we're trying to do. Because I used to be totally against any kind of pruning. I was like, why would you do that? It's the solar panels. It's solar panels. Yeah. Why would you do that? Mm-hmm. But then when I realized a little bit about what's taking care, and so it's like, you really look about your source and sink. So in other words, the source of the food and then what's actually taking it. When you have a little bit more understanding in the plant of what those source and sinks are, yes, you can realize that and understand, guys, anything that is green on the plant is photosynthetic.
Yes, bud will photosynthesize.
Bud photosynthesize. Yes. It's like if it's green and photo. So I want to open up light to the bud sites, right? So then I will throughout the time, I won't get in there and do a hardcore one again after I've done day 20, but I have no problem going in there and popping off big fan leaves and just open up light. None whatsoever.
And we covered this on an episode a while ago. It's funny. You learn things and you forget them. It's like, oh, I forgot there's kind of 2 distinctions to leaves, right? The sink and the source. You want to kind of give just a quick overview on that?
Well, I mean, it's just depending on where it's at, even on the plant. Like some of those bigger older ones were because where they're out on the plant and they're on the whole branch, then that's going to be it sink is going to be, let's just call it the whole plant. So it's going to the energy value or reserves of the entire plant as opposed to going specifically to that bud site, right? And so if I have these big old fan leaves, they're definitely photosynthesizing. They're definitely doing their thing. Although at a certain point, those old leaves too, that chlorophyll does get old. So actually having these new leaves, and that's why even that vibrancy of the green, sometimes like, man, that new growth looks really, really nice. Well, it is. It's new growth. Keep that in mind. So I guess bikini wax is what I would say.
Bikini wax. And then he also specifically mentioned like in flower. What do you think? because any of the leap stripping we're talking about is
again, any of those really big ones.
That's early.
But even late plant, any of those big ones, again, anything that's green is going to photosynthesize. So the bud itself, anything that's connected to this bud, those smaller fan leaves that are right around the bud site, that's a shit that you want to leave on. Take out those big dino leaves. Get rid of those clunkers. Don't be afraid of doing it. Really about any time. I mean, I'm always kind of constantly doing a light pluck. Once I do that heavy one at day 20 in flower, at that point, it's like, I'll selectively do it all the way to the end.
Especially if it's shading something.
Exactly. Absolutely. But again, I'm trying to prune it up and then de-leaf it to a point where I've done most of the work, almost to the point where it's like, I'd like to close that room, lock it, never look at it for the next 40 days. That's not really realistic, but yeah.
Love it. That's a good one. And so we'll go on to, I always wondered what the D in Tenacious D stands for. It turns out it's tenacious dankness.
Tenacious dankness. Okay. All right.
He's got a question about some new millennium. He is suffering some purple stems. You heard Gabe say that it is a low pH issue. He switched to 5.8 all the way. But
to 6.5 for 2 weeks and didn't see a change. What am I screwing up? Also, do you mix ruby and carb into every watering? First off, yes, if you can mix ruby and water or carb into every watering, especially if you're hand watering. If you are running it through irrigation, that's why when we were talking earlier about like the autopots, you might consider hand watering in once or twice a day due to biofilms. Because tell you what, that bacteria absolutely loves the carbo. But that also shows you its efficacy.
Yeah, I started using it with some recharge, and it's
watch out.
They go ham.
Yeah. So I don't think you're screwing anything up. I'll be honest with you. The purple stem thing I think is kind of funny, GRAMBO, because I never have worried that much about it.
And it's ongoing. This is a problem since my day one of growing until today. It's those are tricky, right?
So, well, yeah. And here's the thing. I always, man, it's funny because in the first number of years I was growing, nobody ever said anything about purple stems. I never even cared about it. I never even thought about it. I always just looked at it as something that was strain dependent. And to this day, I really don't give a whole lot of shit about it. And my challenge to you would be, how do the plants look?
That was always my thing.
The plants look healthy?
The weed always turned out dank, even with the purple stems.
That's where I'm at with it. Like I just, it's kind of like when somebody goes, oh, the leaf looks bad. Take it off. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like to me, a lot of these things, don't overthink it. The plant is the plant. Who's controlling who? Read botany and desire. Help you shape your mind around this, around this a little bit more. So my thing is, I think that they're more highly evolved than we are, and they're controlling us. The fact that they're a heterotroph, we're an autotroph. They make their food. We have to seek our food. That's the way I look at things. So, I don't worry a whole lot about it, especially if people ask me all the time, well, this is happening, that's happening. How does the plants look? Oh man, they look great. Conversation over.
But do you agree? pH is that usually where it's coming from?
pH can definitely be because it could come down to phosphorus availability, but I think that's only when you really see severe cases of it. Mm-hmm. I think again, if everything else is clicking along and it looks good, I just don't worry about it.
And sometimes it is genetic. Sometimes the leaves will purple, the stems will purple.
It is what it is. It is what it is. I think we've got time for one more here. It looks like we can squeeze this one in.
And this is from another hardcore juggernaut.
Yes. Green Ogre Farms. Got to get this last one squeezed in. I think we've got through a decent amount of them. It feels like I've been rapid firing here. So sorry for those people who have to actually slow this down a little bit. But anyway, what Jug Dealers products should be top watered and what can be added to a small still water res like real buckets. If I'm using grow dots, should all my saucer base adds be top watered or can I put some in the res? Really good question. I asked because when I tried to use a real bucket setup, I saw actual green algae growth in the res lines. Okay. So I would say, much like we've been talking about all show, for sure, carbo. And in reality, because there's no movement in there.
Should be hand watered.
Yes, hand watered. For sure, hand watered carbo in the top. And then I would also say for sure, because you mentioned that still water res. I always have put carbo and ruby into my reservoir, but I also have a continual pump that's mixing it all the time, right? In these real bucket setups, in that still reservoir type setup, top water in, hand water in your carbo, and then I would, to even be safe, because of the bacteria that's in the ruby, I would do it with the ruby as well. 2 times a week if you can, which is great. Obviously, you want to kind of manage that without overwatering it, right? Because it is sipping from the bottom in those real buckets. But as we kind of mentioned before, one little tap can kind of take care of that pretty easily. And then what can you put? So you've already got grow dots in there, right? So let's say you did want to put some more base in, because let's say those grow dots have been in there since veg and now you're deep into flower. You can absolutely put equinox. You can absolutely put autumn. You can absolutely put PK appetite. You could put blastogen. I mean, really really, Rhizium and Fertilium, I might actually go ahead and hand water those ones in as well. You know, there's a lot of just plant biostimulants and organic products in there that I might be a little bit, but you can definitely put the bases in there, you know, and I would probably get the RO bases, which we really they should be called universal bases. It won't have any of the, or very little of the sediment matter that's in there in the originals. Yeah. So that
on the website, you'll see things listed as universal. That's what that means.
Yep. That's what that means. So I would say, man, you know, should all my saucer base be, I mean, it kind of comes down to, in real buckets, maybe almost all your saucer based stuff.
And if you're using Scotty's system with recharge, he recommends, you know, you go through and hand water that as well. So same sort of thing.
So I mean, your bases are going to be real safe in that system, and then you might just want to stick with all the additives because you're already having to do it. If you're already doing recharge, and you really make a good point, Josh, right? That's already happening. Yeah. I also know you're the dedicated type grower, once a week at least, you know, and you're going to be getting benefits 2 times a week would be fantastic, and probably the safest thing to do in that scenario. Now, keep in mind, I've done the full secret sauce system for years and years, not in a still stagnant real bucket system, but in basically a bucket system, which would be a flood and drain, ebb and flow, more specifically, bucket and bucket system, you know, with a reservoir that's recirculating for, you know, 12 to 14 days. So I put things definitely to the test. There's no question about that, but a really good question, Green Ogre, and really good questions, everybody.
Nice.
Thank you guys so much as always. And we will, you know, we've talked about this, Josh, because this is a good thing that you and I can do together. And this is the days that Gabe is not in studio. We can get together, knock out quite a few of these. And this is always helping somebody else understand a little bit more as well. So
yes, sir.
Until next time from the Jug Den, everybody, thank you so much. We will see you soon. Peace.